Hey, welcome back to the channel, everyone. Are you ready to talk about only good comics? Let's do it. This time, we're going to be talking about Invincible Ultimate Collection Volume 1. This book is by Robert Kirkman, obviously, and Cory Walker and Ryan Ottley with Bill Crabtree on colors. This volume collects the first 13 issues of this 144 issue epic series that you may have heard of. It is obviously been made into an animated series on Amazon Prime, and it's one of my favorite comics of all time. This format in particular, I love this format. It's a really nice, thick format. Each volume has, I don't know, 11 to 13 issues. The last one, contains the last 12 of the series. So there are, I think, 12 of these in total, and I have 5 of them. They're like $30 to $40, depending on where you get them. I got a couple of them for a steal at C2E2 one year. But I really like this format. I've read them in the single issues and trade paperbacks and different things, but I really enjoy this because it gives you a nice hefty story, and it's a cool format to have, and it looks really good on a bookshelf. Got all 5 of them side by side, and it looks really good. But I'm hoping to eventually get the rest of them. But anyway, if you're not familiar with Invincible, if you've never read Invincible, if you haven't watched the animated series, it is basically a John Kent story, kind of. It's a son of Superman. If Superman was secretly Zod, that's pretty much how you can describe it. That does spoil a little bit, I guess, but it's been out for a while. Season 1 of the animated series has been done for a while as well. If you are familiar with Invincible at all, you know what this guy's really about. This is Omni-Man. This is Invincible's dad. This is obviously Invincible, and that's where he gets his powers from. So this first arc, this first volume, a lot happens in these first 13 issues. Now, looking back on it, as I was reading it as it came out and stuff, I remember that first arc, that first year worth of Invincible. It felt slow. It felt like it took you a while to get there, right? But looking through this, it's like, no, it just must have been like the pacing and getting to know the characters and everything, because so much happens in this book. I mean, everything that happened in season 1 of the animated series pretty much happens in this book. And that's 13 issues worth. It is a year's worth of storytelling. But again, a lot happens. You get introduced to a lot of characters, a lot of change for Mark Grayson, aka Invincible, and his entire family. So, in the first issue, we start off with him in costume as Invincible, and then we quickly, after a couple of pages, flash back to 4 months ago, where he was a teenager. He knew his dad was a superhero, and he was supposed to get powers, but he was kind of a late bloomer, and his dad was starting to lose, hope that he would ever get his powers. And just one day, I think he's throwing out the trash and the powers develop. And all of a sudden, in that first issue, we go from him not having any powers to starting to exhibit the powers, to getting a costume design, to thwarting his first crime, a bank robbery. And from there, we just dive right into everything. In issue 2, we get a little bit of the backstory of his dad and where he came from, the planet Viltrumite. He leaves out some details, but we also get introduced to some of Invincible's friends, some other heroes, Robot, Adam Eve, Rexplode, Dupli-Kate. We get introduced to them, and he starts hanging out with them and fighting crime with them. And I think by issue 4 or 5, we were introduced to Alan the Alien, who's kind of this universal guardian. He's out, in space, keeping an eye on this sector. He's basically kind of like a Green Lantern, I guess. And him and Invincible have a tussle, and they have to. We circle back to them by the end of this arc, and so there's that whole thing, and then we start building up Invincible's Rogues Gallery, and I'm going to show meant to show some of this throughout this whole thing, but that's like the first opening pages. As you see, he is in costume before we flash back, and then we, like I said, we quickly flash back there and do all that. Yeah, he's throwing up the trash, and that's what happens. And if you saw the animated series, they showed it there as well. Some funny costume ideas that he first just like dresses like that, and then he missed it. I passed right over where he was doing the different costumes, but he tried on, like, he went to this costume shop. Oh yeah, there we go. The orange and yellow. He tried some different things until finally settling on the classic blue, black, and yellow that he ends up doing. So we also had a flashback, I guess, when he first learned that his dad was a superhero and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, and there's like Adam and Eve and Rexplode and all of them as we get to know them. And like I said, we start to meet some of Invincible's eventual Rogues Gallery through this. And he starts like getting friendly with Adam and Eve, and he starts doing the superhero thing with his dad, Omni-Man, throughout this. So that's cool. And they start fighting crime together. Then we are introduced to, I don't think we're quite there yet. Oh yeah, we go into the base with Robot and all of them, and start to learn their personalities a little bit, and they play heavily into the series going forward. If you don't know, both positively and negatively, and we'll see how that all plays out. Hopefully, they get to touch on all of that in the animated series, because it's a really good arc for those characters. Here's the introduction to Alan the Alien. It's really cool, and that whole fight that they had, and then they get to know each other a little bit better. We see the infamous playing catch with Dad after he's all grown. This is about halfway through this arc. This is issue 6, and I think somewhere in the middle of this we get introduced to the Guardians of the Globe. Yeah, here we go. Beginning of issue 7. We get introduced to the Guardians of the Globe, which is basically the Justice League of this universe, and or of Mark's life anyway. And if you, this is going to be a spoiler if you have not read this book, or if you have not seen the animated series. Someone kills the entire Guardians of the Globe, except for like the Immortal, I think is his name, who is immortal. But we learn who that is, and it's not so good for Mark, and some bad things start happening. There's a lot of tears, a lot of emotional stuff going on as they attend the funeral. Adam and Eve is really sad. And then there's like this whole thing to replace the Guardians of the Globe. And then as we get on, here's another shot of the Rogues Gallery. This guy comes up a lot for Invincible. He was featured in the animated series as well. But we learned some secrets about Omni-Man, and we learned that he didn't tell Mark and his family the entire truth about why he's on Earth, and what the Viltrumite people are actually all about. And so that causes some conflict between Mark and his dad that gets very heated. That's putting it lightly. And I just don't want to spoil it in case you haven't seen it, or if you plan on watching the animated series, because it's a really, really good and really powerful, really emotional arc for Mark, and it kind of changes his entire life the way it goes. I missed it in here, but there was a scene where like Mark was talking about all this crazy stuff. They were like having dinner, the three of them, Mark and his two parents. And there was a scene where he was talking about all the stuff that happened on his day. And then his dad was like, yeah, I've been enslaved on this alien planet for the past 8 months, but I guess time passes differently here because it's only been like a week. And then like the mom's like, cool. What's for, you guys ready for dessert? It's just like, this is just like normal everyday conversation. It's a great narrative, great dialogue throughout this. Here's a spoiler-rific shot of the Viltrumites. just to give you a little tease, some dark stuff happens with the Viltrumite people going forward, especially when we get into the Viltrumite War way down the line. But this is at the very beginning. More Guardians of the Globe stuff in this. Like I said, the big altercation between Mark and his dad happens in this whole arc, and by the end of it, it's like Mark doesn't know what's up, what's down. Everything has changed. His world has been torn apart, and now he's in the care of Cecil, who is with the Pentagon and behind the Guardians of the Globe and all this stuff, and they're trying to figure out what the next steps are for everyone. And by the end of it, Mark just sits down with Alan the alien, and this is the last page of page 13, but it's no spoiler. He's just sitting there with Alan, and he's like, I guess I'm going to finish high school. And it's just like, that's how he ends it, because he doesn't know what else to do with this self after everything that he's learned and everything that he's been through. And like I said, his whole world was turned upside down. The cool thing about these Ultimate Collections too is there's a lot of extra content. So that's all the extra content that you get after the end of the 13 issues, and we get to see like concept sketches from the original pitch to image and stuff like that. All kinds of sketches in the back matter here, which you expect in a good hardcover collection. But if you're an Invincible fan, you get to see some really cool stuff here. Some promotional art that they had, really good promotional art for the book. This was the proposal art that you got to see that was in the original pitch package, like I said. Got variant covers and different things like that. Original layouts for some covers, original Alan the alien design. I don't want to get all of it away because, if you go out and buy it, you can enjoy it yourself. And then I believe you get script in here as well, or at least some of it. There's some other character designs and stuff like that you get in these. Yeah, you got like the whole script and everything. So it's $30-$40 for this thing, but again, you're getting 13 issues plus all kinds of cool back matter, and if you're like a process junkie and that kind of thing, you'll get a real kick out of these Ultimate Collections. I love this format. Like I said, you get to read a big chunk of the story. When you're done, you feel satisfied. You still got more if you can dive through all that matter. Invincible is just such a great story because it's about this Superman-like kid, has similar abilities and that kind of thing. Similar background. His dad's from a alien planet. His dad is basically Superman, but kind of like Zod. Like I said at the beginning, but the heart of this story is the character journey and all the supporting cast in his life, his relationship with his mom, his relationship with Adam and Eve, and all his friendships. In these first 13 issues, he has a teacher that is basically a villain and is creating like these organic bombs and these students and stuff. I mean, there's just some crazy stuff going on in Mark's life, and he's surrounded by it at every turn. And when he gets his powers, he's kind of awakened to all this stuff that's been going on around him, right under his nose, that he had no idea about. Even though he's heard stories from his dad, he wasn't involved in any of it, so he was kind of sheltered a little bit from it. But now he's exposed to all of it, and it's a whole new ball game for Mark. So it's just a really cool story, and it's got a really cool narrative. I guess a really cool dialogue, emotional arcs throughout the whole thing. And as we get further into it, some really deep, serious issues happen with Mark and those around him. Some heavy stuff. This book does not shy away from really serious conflict. It doesn't shy away from issues that you might not normally see in your mainstream superhero comics. There are bloody battles. There are great losses that stick. There are things that happen to characters that are permanent and change everything. There are really hard things that happen to Mark. And I think the thing that resonated to me about Invincible when I first started reading it was he's a Superman-like character, but his personality, all the things that happen to him, everything around him, his supporting cast and everything is very much like Spider-Man. He's very much like a Peter Parker with a Superman-like power set. So it's got the best of both worlds. It's got all that Superman stuff and all the Spider-Man stuff that me as a huge Spider-Man fan absolutely loves. So it's just a completely different take on that. And anybody that's like, oh, it's just a Superman knockoff or whatever, it's not. It's really not. It's its own thing. And I think that's proven by 144 issues of a series that ended up getting an animated series that is just as good and just as strong and complete as the book, and it wasn't watered down or anything. So if you haven't checked that out, definitely go check out the animated series on Prime. I know season 2 is coming very soon. I don't think they have a release date yet, but I know it's soon. It's got to be. It's been too long, and I'm ready for it. I can't wait. But yeah, I highly recommend these Ultimate Collections. I'll talk about more in the future. But any way that you can read Invincible, whether it's through single issues, trades, or these Ultimate Collections or big omnibuses, I don't care how you read it. Just go read it because it is a phenomenal book. It was my favorite book when it was on the shelves. One of my favorite series of all time, and I can't recommend it enough. So if you have not checked it out, Invincible, I don't know if you've been living under a rock or whatever, but definitely should. It's so good. So that's it. Invincible Ultimate Collection, Volume 1, Issues 1 through 13. Those are my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And please, hit that subscribe and notification bell so you don't miss any content on this channel. Give me a thumbs up. So, I know you like the video, and it also helps the channel a lot. And, so join me next time as we talk, once again, not only good comics. So then take care.